which I normally forget. Yeah, so I'm Dylan from BPro. I'm sitting down today with Samantha Li, who's a photographer with the Infinity Collective, but also an ambassador with Imagen, an artificial intelligence editing tool that she'll explain in much greater detail. Today, we've got a follow-along session with Sam where she's going to show how to take a wedding gallery or a portrait gallery from the raw files, edit them and have them up on Pixieset ready to show your clients in approximately an hour. So I'll let Sam take it from here.
Hi everyone, so let me start off. I work for Imagen and I'm a global ambassador for Australia and New Zealand and also Asia, I believe. And today I want to show you my wedding workflow because I'm also a wedding photographer. So I have my own business as well. And sometimes I think that we all need a little direction when it comes to how we do our workflows to expedite things. So I want to show you what I do. So let me start by sharing my screen and show you a little preparation that I did. So this is me, wedding workflows. Dylan, can you see everything clearly?
Yep, we can see your screen. And I should have mentioned too, feel free to jump in if you've got questions or pop them into the chat as we go.
Yeah. So my wedding workflows. There's some basics I just want to run through before I get into the nitty gritty of moving into Imagen and Pixieset and all that stuff. So I just want to say every photographer has their own processes, workflows, quirks, creative methods. As with all things in life, there is no true formula that will fit the bill for everyone. I'm here just to share you what I do, my processes and workflows that have been fine-tuned and refined over the past 15 plus years that I've been a wedding photographer. And in this business, it's worked for me. Feel free to take a page out of my book or skim through or throw out the book entirely and go with what works for you and only you. So for me, on a wedding day, a wedding job, there are three parts. There's the getting ready for Armageddon, and then there's the rocking it on the day, and then there's the blast of exceeding expectations to your client, which is the final post-processing part. So a few things when we are looking at doing weddings is these are my 8 things that I really think are really important. Batteries. So if you can, Dylan, I can't really read my thing because my screen is a little bit too big. Dylan, can you read it for me? Because I can't read number 1.
Yep, okay, so number 1, always have fully charged batteries. Make note of the S. Have more batteries than what you anticipate you'll need.
So then the next one I can actually see, it says, always check your gear. Make sure you have everything the day before, not the morning of. Checking settings on your camera are ready to go for prep. It's important because sometimes we come home from a wedding from the previous night and we've all got the settings set for reception, which are completely different for when you begin the start of a day. So please make sure that you check the settings on your camera and that it's not on 3200 ISO or on tungsten light or on flash, and you've got all the settings all over the place. And then when you try to rock up to the wedding, then you start with something that's completely wrong. And then, yeah, it doesn't work. Next is always pack certain things that I think are essentials to make sure you bring on the day. Clothes, shoes, spares, raincoat, first aid kit, sewing kit, so important. For those dudes that work a wedding, I actually worked with a friend last Saturday, and before he got to ceremony, he split his pants. So yes, a sewing kit is very, very essential because you don't want to flash your friends while you're shooting. Okay, wooden hangers. Sometimes brides don't actually have the most aesthetically pretty hangers for their wedding dresses, and bringing an extra wooden hanger will be much appreciated by the bride. Gaffer tape. Okay, for those who don't know what a gaffer tape is, it's the tape that we use to tape down stuff that we don't want to, people to trip over. So just make sure you have that just in case you need to tape something up and then it's easily removable. Deodorant, we don't want to stink. A face mask for ceremonies and for when you need to be a bit more careful. Chewing gum and breath mints, I think that sort of speaks for itself. And water. Stay hydrated, snacks, and of course, a bag of lollies to bribe. Now, it doesn't have to be to bribe kids. It can be also to bribe the bridal party to cooperate to make sure that they actually take the photos that you want them to take. Number 4, always be early. Allow for traffic, for delays, for shit to happen, and be ready and be early so you can be on time. Number 5, always have a copy of your timeline on your phone, on paper, in your pocket, a spare in your bag. And also, any photo lists that you have for formal photos after ceremony, make sure you have 4 copies so that you can give 1 to each side of the family, the groom side and the bride side, or the groom side and the groom side, or the bride side and bride side, depending if it's same sex as well. Always have a full tank in your car. Now, today, petrol prices are really expensive, but make sure you have a full tank, because there's nothing worse than trying to fill up on a wedding day or to run out of petrol halfway through trying to get from one location to another location because you forgot to fill the tank, right? And before a wedding, touch base with all the important people, the other vendors involved in the wedding. So celebrant, stylist, couple. So a week before the wedding, introduce yourself, send through your contact details so everyone is on the same page as you, and send through your final timeline. Don't rely on the venue's timeline or the stylist timeline. Make sure that your timeline is given out to everyone involved. And if there's any issues, you have at least 7 days to fix that. All right, the very final one, which for me, I don't know whether you're heavy sleepers or not, or where you're forgetful and don't look at the time, but always set your alarms on multiple devices to remind you to get there on time. So those are my getting ready up for Armageddon sort of trips. All right, so this one, basic strategies. This is really important to me. Camera settings, especially if you print with BPro, this is also very important. If you shoot with Adobe RGB and not sRGB, you might find that when you go to print, your images will actually print to the way you would expect it to, and not overly yellow or overly green, because you're in the wrong color space. A lot of people do shoot JPEG. There's nothing wrong with shooting JPEG, but I do presume that it would be better if you would shoot uncompressed RAW. Always make sure that you shoot RAW to RAW. So make sure you have a second card that's backing up, and that you're not going from one card to the other card, because that second slot is really not for you to have continuous photos and storage space, but actually so that you have a backup of the day. Should for any reason that the first card dies, or for any reason there's corruption in one of the cards. Okay. Also, white balance is important. Some people work with making sure that they set it to the white balance they want. I personally prefer during prep and location to use auto ISO, auto white balance. It just makes it easier for me. But when we get to reception, or when I'm using off-camera flash, then I will then set it to either fluorescent or tungsten. ISO. So depending on the camera body that you have, I generally don't go under 160, and I've set my camera not to go over 1600 ISO, just for making sure that I don't have grain. But I mean, this is all dependent on your camera systems. Also, shooting mode. I shoot manual. I've never really gone over to aperture priority, but I know that it works for a lot of people. And during ceremony, especially if you have a lot of systems which are backlit, you might find aperture priority will work well for you. I personally also don't shoot below 100 over 100, 1 over 100, because I'm relatively old and I don't have a steady hand. But if you do, go for it. The other thing is, one other tip that I find is really, really essential. If you shoot with more than one body, or you have more than one shooter on a wedding day, this is really amazing to do, is to shoot the first photo on every single camera body, world time or an app like exact time. This will allow you, when time comes to cull through your photos and sync time together, you can sync the time of the cameras all together perfectly, so that your ceremony is not out of place when you have two bodies, or or you have a second shooter that is shooting at the same time. So on to the next bit. So know your client. Remember their names. It's important to make sure that your clients actually have a rapport with you and know who their parents are. Make sure you're aware of family dynamics. Check and remember the bridal party names. It's nothing worse than if you say, hey, you, on a wedding day, and they're actually the groom's best friend or, you know, the bride's best friend. It's just rude. So do your homework, check your notes, and make sure that you actually get to know who you're shooting and put your clients first. Also, check the notes for important photos that are must have. So sometimes you might find there are children involved, or there's grandparents, or they have step parents, or they have godparents that have been there for them all their lives and that they are very important. You need to know these things to ensure that you capture what is needed for the wedding day to give to a client what they envision. All right. Next one is get on top of your timeline. Allow yourself time to set up gear, prep shots, have spare batteries and cards on your person. Don't leave them in your bag. Make sure that if you're gonna leave your bag somewhere, make sure you have spare batteries and spare cards, because halfway through a ceremony, if you run out of space, you're not going to scramble and leave and go grab a card or grab a battery. So make sure you have these things in place on your person. Stay on top of things and learn to jiggle things if things don't run smoothly. For example, if the bride left her flowers behind and then arrives half an hour late for ceremony, so that pushes timelines, which means that you can't do group photos or something. But be flexible, okay? And do not stress out your clients. So do all of these things, manage their day in a way with a smile, and make sure that you are the one that they look to when they want to just de-stress, and they can rely on you. Next thing is content. When I shoot, I capture for an album in the sense that I shoot to tell a story. I also capture for wall art so that I make sure that I do the formal photos. And a lot of photographers, I think, who do wedding photography find the formal photos after ceremony to be quite tedious. But these are actually the most important photos for the family and for the parents of the bride and groom, or the couple. So make sure that you nail those photos. Don't do it half-ass and just take one photo and you're done. Make sure that you check, or you take multiple photos so that you don't have someone that's cross-eyed with their mouth open, looking the wrong way, or just, with their eyes closed. Make sure you nail those formal photos, because those are the ones, if you do after sales, those are the ones that will go on a canvas or a frame, and they will be the ones that are printed. Okay. Capture for the vendors as well. Make sure that you maximize how you can create social media and also network for yourself by make sure that you take photos of the cake, the styling, the florals, the veil, the dress, details. All of these things are important to the vendors that are also working hand in hand with you. And if you do send these photos to the vendors, you'll find that they will reciprocate by sending business your way. Capture to the client's vision. So get the romance, get the parents, the children, the family, the best friends, the fur babies. Make sure that you understand what your client is looking for. So if they say, we're not posy type of people, we just want to chill and enjoy the day, please don't try to set up off-camera flashes and make them bend this way or look that way or sniff her neck or do any of those things. If they want candid, deliver candid. Don't try to pose them. If they say to you that they need direction, this is where you can hop in and say, yeah, sure, I can direct you. And then make sure that you create the imagery that they want by gently directing them into good light, position them so that they're flattering, so that you don't have double chins, fat arms, or they look awkward. And definitely don't shoot up their noses, especially for people like me who are really short. It's quite often that I do end up shooting up people's noses because I'm short. All right, oops. And the last one. This one, getting it right in camera. So a lot of photographers like to underexpose. I find that if you shoot perfectly exposed to camera, you might find that your editing process is actually expedited and a lot easier than you trying to bring things up in post. Also, taking the time to move things in the background or clearing up spaces is so much more easier on the day than to actually in post try to remove a person or remove underwear or snot rags or anything, socks on the table, like clutter. Move these things on a wedding day. It takes you probably 5-6 minutes to get it done, but post processing, you'll find that it's far more efficient to get it done properly on the day than to try and Photoshop everything out. And when you're doing location photos or you're shooting people, if you need to fix a stray hair or hide a bra strap, stop. Oh, I can just remove that. Whoops. Sorry, you probably decided to turn the lights off again. Yeah, so make sure that you get these things done on the day. So hide that hair, hide the bra strap, remove sunglasses on groomsmen or guests when you're doing the group photos. Takes keys and wallets and phones out of pockets because it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing on grooms. Yeah, so, and fix all this before you actually click. Next is card management. 5D cards, SD cards should be turned over in 2 years. That's my policy. You can keep them for longer. I also keep my SD cards in plastic sleeves and to minimize exposure to dust and to touch. Always check your cards before you format them because you need to make sure that you backed it up. Or maybe you picked up the wrong card and you thought it was one card. So check the card before you do any type of formatting. And for me, I do not format any of my cards until the images have actually been delivered to the client. So unless the final images have already been uploaded to Pixieset and delivered to the client, I don't actually format my cards. So I would always have backups on two hard drives on the cloud and also on my cards. So file management. For each job, and I'm using Ronnie and Dylan, so I have a way of managing all my files so that they're all in sequence. So I go date and then the name of the client. Each job should then have 3 separate folders: raws, Lightroom, finished. Raw folders should also be kept for me with each separate card. So each separate camera body will have its own folder in the raw folder. Also backup weekly, preferably every time you add a new job, and have a cloud backup of the finished files. Also make sure that you set up your cards, your cameras to have the copyright information on them at all times, and also camera specific. So make sure that you name your file names on each camera body to be specific to that camera. All right, image management. So with image management, this is where we're going into, I use Photo Mechanic. So with image management, I tend to pick sneak peeks and then deliver those in 24 to 48 hours, preferably even on the night if I can. Also select images for vendors specific to deliver those in a personalized gallery. When uploading images to online galleries, break up the selection into parts of the day: bride prep, groom prep, ceremony. So this is for Pixieset. When I create the files in the folders inside my Pixieset gallery, they don't recommend you loading all of your image files in one highlight or one folder. They actually tell you to break it up, so it makes it easier for your client to see. All right, and with client management, client management, send thank you emails post to the wedding client. So this is usually done 24 hours. So for sending sneak peeks to vendors and to upload sneak peeks to socials within 24 hours. So this is where my Imagen comes and saves the day. So it does it for me on a wedding day, and I don't have to think about it. You just need to pick the photos and then it edits so quickly. I deliver final galleries to clients within 4 weeks. I actually essentially have them already done within 2. And also make sure that you send the final galleries to vendors and upload vendor-specific images to vendors' dedicated galleries. And then when you're finished, ask for a review because you've done such an amazing job. All right, so this is the nitty-gritty. For me, it's a 4-step process for how I process everything. So first, I go into Photo Mechanic and I cull. You cull your images in Photo Mechanic, and I prefer to color code. So reds are my picks, blues are my sneak peeks, and then greens are my vendor-specific images. So in light of this, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you my Photo Mechanic. So this is Dylan's Tiki-Tala. This is his engagement day, and I've already pre-selected. So just letting you know that with Imagen, we're also soon to roll out AI culling as well as AI editing, which we already have. But AI culling is going to be amazing because I had to manually do this. I had to go through images and select them. But once culling is coming in, then it'll be even faster than my current workflow. So this is how I generally pick all my photos. So then I go A, and then I open my Lightroom. So we're now looking at the Imagen interface. So while my Lightroom is actually importing all those images in, you can see how the Imagen interface works. So for me, I've created my own creator profile, which is called Infinity. You can always use the AI profiles, the talents that they have. So the talent profiles that they have, the most beautiful one recently added is by Sarah Edmonds, and that's Love and Light. It's very light and airy, true color tones on the skin tones. White balance is very muted and beautiful. There's also Charmy, who has a cinematic luxury. So if you do a lot of Hindu weddings or Indian weddings, you'll find this is like the most glorious edit for those types of weddings. If you like things that are very colorful weddings, cinematic luxury is also well suited for that. So you have the option when signing up for Imagen to either create your own creator profile or use the talents available to you. So to create your own profile, it requires you to submit 5,000 of your own edited images in their final catalogs or in Lightroom. Once you've submitted that, then over 72 hours, you'll get an email, and then they'll send back to you saying that your creator profile has been created, and you'll see that here. So it'll be this one or whatever that you've named your own creator profile. When using it, you go to click here, use to edit, and that's the screen that you see. In order for me to find the catalog, we're still building standard previews. So it might take a little bit of time. This is quite a lot of photos. 633 just from the one card. In total, for Dylan's Tikatala, there was a total of, I think, 12,000 photos.
And Sam's not exaggerating when she says 12,000 photos. Sam, Trish had a quick question about the Imagen creative profiles, and if you don't have 5,000 edited in Lightroom, how that would work?
So it works best when you have 5,000. Of course, if you don't have 5,000, you can create a creator profile, but it'll be less accurate. So with any AI, the more data that you give it, the more accurate it will edit in the way that you want it to edit. So does Trish know how many photos that she has currently? Is Trish messaging at all? Dylan, you're muted.
Just to jump in, Trish, do you currently edit your images in Lightroom? or do you use something like Photoshop or another editing? Yeah, okay, so previously you've used Bridge and Photoshop.
That's okay. I can send a link for you to show you. There's a YouTube video that we created, that Scott's created, that actually can show you how to go from Bridge to Lightroom, and then you can then edit with those original edits for you. Sanjeev is behind me saying hi. Yeah, so that's okay, Trish. I will put a link in the chat. In the Dylan, where would we put it? In the, when you do the recording, post the recording, we'll put it in that section there, or I can email it directly to Trish if Trish can send through her email address to me. I'll send you a link to that YouTube to show you how to go from Adobe Raw, or as you call it, Bridge, and you can use it that way.
Yeah, and we can also pop it in the general recording email.
All right, so we're nearly there. Control A. I'm not sure that I actually, when I imported, I clicked on build standard preview. So please make sure that when you do this, that you actually need to build smart previews for images, just so the AI can just function a little bit faster. So with the Imagen interface, you'll see these ones here. Are there anyone in the audience that actually haven't signed up for Imagen at all and would like to have a link to create a profile and give it a go? There's no obligation to actually use a program on the long term. You're actually more than welcome to just test run it with 1,500 free edits. So, I mean, if you would like, I can give you a link. In the chat box. So here is a link for anyone who wants to sign up and just trial out Imagen with 1,500 free edits. Because if you normally just sign up with the normal trial on the website, it only gives you 1,000. So even if you just want to try out the talents, if you don't want to, at this point, create your own creator profile, you're more than welcome to do that. Let's go there. So with here, I've selected the folder I want to edit it, and then I create test. So I pick my own creator profile. I also tend to like to shoot with to select straight, because I find it's really, really good when it comes to horizons or awkward angles where I might have been lopsided. Yeah. And then I go add. Once I've added that, I can upload. Bye, Sanju. Have a good day. So it is uploading now. So depending on your internet, it should do it within 10 to 15 minutes.
So if I don't use the first program to select the photos, all the raw photos are loaded into Lightroom, and then pick the images I want. And then do I just export the catalog, the category from Lightroom and then lower into Imagen?
Okay, so are you saying you don't use Photo Mechanic or any sort of culling program? You just load it? No, I mean, Imagen just works with Lightroom. So if you cull directly in Lightroom, you're perfectly well to just do it from there. Just make sure that when you cull, do you remove the images from the catalog, or do you just
no. So I just mark it.
You mark it. So what do you mark it as?
I'll just press the P and flag it. So select the images. Let's say for wedding, okay. Let's say shoot 2,000 images. Then I flag the probably within 1,000, which is I think they are the one I want. And then when I export it, should I just select those flag images to export it and then load it into the program?
Okay, so just let me open my Lightroom so I can see what you're talking about. So when you say you when you say you mark your images, do you mark them color like color or by pix, or what do you do?
Okay, so for example, that's the images we shoot right now, right? They're all raw once you load it inside Lightroom. And I will quickly go through the images.
Would you look at doing it a different way, like maybe color coding? Because I found that the color coding is probably a more easier way, or by the star system rather than doing the pick and the unpick.
Maybe, but it's the habit used for years. It's fast enough.
All right. So I mean, I can see that these are picked.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can. So if I set them to say yellow, and they're all flagged. I go. I'm still not picking them up.
Can you use it? Okay, can you go back to Lightroom rather than flag that 3?
Yeah.
You can mark it, like give them a rate with the stars.
Sure.
Oops.
So if I'm going to the flag again.
Go select that 3 photos.
Filter. So these 3?
Yep, okay, let's say mark these 3 as a 2 stars, okay? So you don't have anything to do with the others. So we know this 3, which is the letter. And then how can we do in the, the magenta?
Sure. Yes. Set. And then if I tick off all of these, and then just have 3 stars.
2 stars. You mark as 2 stars. Okay.
6, and then objective and flag. There you go.
Okay.
It's picked it up. So say, for example, I want these edited.
Oh, okay. So how did you do that? I know you got...
Oh,
okay. I see the Lightroom catalog.
So just basically picking what you want Imagen to select from your catalog. So say, for example, I want to do that, then I just put
Mm-hmm.
right. Let's do that one. Upload. Oh. Let me get rid of this one. No, just do this one. Yeah. Upload.
So you don't need to export anything. You just need to select the file in Lightroom.
No, it actually integrates seamlessly with your Lightroom. So you, as long as when you're doing the upload, you shut down the Lightroom first.
Okay.
So it's already edited those 3
Yep.
photos, and then it's processing.
Yeah. Let's see what's the next. So just go back to the Imagen layer. You just need to give them the to find the location, which is where the Lightroom.
It will actually find it itself because it picks up what your last catalog is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it will actually select whatever's the last one, or you can actually select it yourself. So if you say it's not in the selection that I want, or it's a catalog that you want to edit that was maybe a few weeks back, and it's not in the most recent categories, you can actually then choose it from the selection. Like you can actually go into your hard drive and look for that selection there in your Lightroom. It will let you select. It's got so many different processes that you can. So you then download the edits.
Yeah.
Once you finish.
They are the JPEG or what? What is this?
No, this is editing your RAWs. This is editing your RAWs. There's no JPEGs until you export as a JPEG. So see, it's picked up those 3.
Yeah.
So I download the edits.
Yeah.
Then I press continue.
Yeah.
Then it lets me open my Lightroom catalog inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It'll open my Lightroom.
Yep.
And then if I'm looking at the flag.
The 3 image.
So these 3 have been edited. So let me open up this first one, and then I can show you in develop the before and after, just so you can see what the AI has done. So that's what the AI has done. So between this is the raw before it's been edited, and that's actually when it was editing, this actually had slapped on my preset as well. So it has my preset on it originally. When I import, it just automatically updates with my preset because it's in my Lightroom. And then this is the post. So if I'm looking at the next image, that's the before and that's the after. And then this one, the before and the after. So this is using my profile.
Okay.
And just to jump in for a second, Crystal, one thing that's impressed me is, so like a preset adds a standard adjustment regardless of the base. Imagen is actually adjusting relative to the image. So if it's overexposed, underexposed. I've actually had 4 professional shoots with Sam so far this year. Some have been outdoors, some have been at end of day, some have been on a beach, some have been like, and it's done a remarkable job of making the editing really consistent, the color consistent, despite the fact that all the images are so variable.
For the image, like if it's for wedding, you're shooting in different locations. Some is in outdoor, like the ceremony, and even the timeline is different. Like when you're in the prep room,
it's
breaking.
Yeah. When you're in the lightroom.
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is, you know, a long day weddings, you start from the beginning of the day to the end of the night, and then you get different time of the day, and then you got different locations. So when we submit like the 5,000 images to in Imagen, like, do I have to set up different setting, like if it's in the reception, and then I got a bunch of the reception photo for the AI to read? How do I do the reception photos? And when I join the ceremony, and the ceremony usually in outdoor, and then the light will be different. Like,
of course. So with the catalogs that you send through, you're looking at finished catalogs. So I'm sure that in the 5,000 images that you've submitted to create your creator profile, you've selected catalogs that have different times of the day. So you've had prep, you had ceremony, you have reception where you've used off-camera lighting. For me, because I run a business that has multiple shooters, so we have Canon shooters, Sony shooters, Fuji shooters, Nikon shooters, and so forth. So we all use different camera bodies. So that also affects how the editing works at the end of the day. With Imagen, it actually, what happens is that it learns how you would edit each individual scenario and then replicates your editing style for those scenarios. So it doesn't matter as long as you've had an example of a beach wedding or a rainforest wedding or reception photos where you use off-camera flash. If you've demonstrated to the AI in this catalog you selected and sent to it for learning, it will replicate what you've provided to it. It learns intrinsically your editing style for each individual image. It's not a preset. So I think in your mindset, you're looking at it as if it was a preset where it's a blanket parameter where you slap it on a preset and then everything looks the same. The Imagen AI, it doesn't actually do that. It actually looks at how you edit skin tones, how you look at white balance, how you look at your tone curves, your contrasts, all of that. And it takes it into its learning capacity, and then it replicates how you do it in that scenario. So when you're looking at the images that I had before, this was also different lighting situations. So different angles and stuff like that. So you'll find that it's edited skin tones the same. And it's just looks at the image and then replicates how I would edit. So if you look at the slider bars, you'll see that it's actually adjusted. See how it moved? So it's not the same all through. It actually adjusts to ensure that it's symmetrical in how it edits to the skin tones and the white balance. The sliders are not the same. And when you put a preset in, it is all the same. The sliders, exposure, contrast, shadows, all of that is all the same when you're doing a preset. Does that answer your question, Crystal?
Yep. So I'll get another question, because I'm not just shooting weddings, you know, like if I get the newborn stuffing or the vulva stuffing, do I have to separate to different thing, or they still can blend it all together?
Do you have a separate editing style for each different type of shoot?
Would be a little bit different, I would say. The wedding thing, wedding is quite standard with the family, outdoors family, or the engagement, whatever. But the newborn stuff, because it's just different. The environment's completely different. The lighting is different, and newborn stuff, usually I would do the skin smooth as well in the baby thing. Yeah. And do the program would do something like that, or not really?
Okay, so right now our Imagen AI doesn't do local adjustments.
Yeah.
It does take into account grain and noise, but it doesn't do skin smoothing. So that's a more a Photoshop type of thing. It's not able to work with Photoshop. It's only inside Lightroom. So what you can do in Lightroom, but without local adjustments. So if you are saying that your editing style for your newborn or your studio shoots are different, you're more than welcome to create a different profile
Mm-hmm.
for those types of shoots. For me, as you know, I shoot weddings, I shoot corporate, I shoot headshots, I shoot events, I do lifestyle. So they're all different genres, but my editing style is quite consistent throughout all the different genres that I do. The only ones that are different probably would be the headshots, which, but then my skin tones are still the same. So I only need the one profile, but if you feel that you edit differently for each different type of shoot, then I suggest you create a separate profile for that and use those separate profiles for each different shoot. Okay. If you have, and I know that Crystal, you would have more than enough body of images to submit to Imagen to create the separate profiles. You've been in the business just as long as I have, virtually. So I'm sure that you have more than 5,000 images for each shoot. So profiles are unlimited. There's no extra cost to create extra profiles. So I would suggest in your case, then maybe create a profile for your wedding work and create a profile for your studio sessions. I think that your lifestyle outdoor shoots are very similar to your wedding work when it comes to editing. So I don't feel that there's a need for you to separate that. The AI will actually
can that
learn.
individually submit 5,000? Like the wedding family, whatsoever, those outdoor thing can be 5,000?
No. So what it is you actually submit for each profile. So if you want to create a profile for your wedding work and your lifestyle work, then that will require 5,000 images. If you want another profile specific to your studio, then you would need to then create another 5,000, submit another 5,000 images for that profile. So each profile you create requires a minimum of 5,000 images. And then as you go along, you'll find that you can actually fine tune it. So fine tuning is where here you upload the final edits. You upload it so that it can learn how you, just let me close this down. So it learns how you, sometimes your catalogs will come back from Imagen and you may have tweaked it a little bit, just to perfect it a little bit more. This is where you upload your final edits and you send it to the AI to show how you tweaked it, how you refined it. And this is how it learns and fine tunes over time. So if initially when you create your creator profile with 5,000 images, you may find it's probably hit it around about 70 to 80%. As you use it more and keep submitting your final updates to it, the final tweaks that you've done in the catalogs, once you've delivered to the clients, it continues to learn and evolve with your profile. When it gets to enough, relatively usually around about 5,000 images, it will then update itself, and then it will start to continue to refine and learn and grow with you, and it will get better and better. My profile at the moment, when I first started, it probably, I had to do more tweaking. Now I virtually can just look at it, and there's just a few that I would then go and convert to black and white. There are some that maybe new camera bodies, or I might have mucked around with my white balance on that day for some reason, and then it may have just been a little bit off, and then I tweaked that. But right now, my profile is sitting to around about 80% accuracy. So it's pretty much expedited my workflow so amazingly. So right now I can deliver a full wedding day with pretty much within 72 hours if I wanted to. The only slow part is actually the culling for me, and then reviewing the images, because I have to look, because of me, I am the person I am, I like to make sure that I look at the image before I submit it. And because I tend to overshoot, and as you know, I deliver quite a lot.
How long does it run to go through, let's say 1,200 wedding photos? Like, you need to turn off your Lightroom. Is it overnight? We'll get them all done?
So the editing with Imagen is usually around about 20 minutes.
Oh,
for
that's quick.
1,600 images.
Oh, that's a
I
lot quicker than
did
I
it- Yeah, so the other night I did, I think I sent it 2,300 images and it did it in, I think, 22 minutes.
That's good.
So, but it's also dependent on your internet. So usually with the internet, if you've got fast speed internet, then it's really fast. It's really important to make sure that you also select build smart previews. It makes the AI go faster because it's looking at the DNGs.
Okay.
Okay, so any other questions regards to how this works? I'm just going to keep traveling on. Hello?
Mute myself.
Okay, so I'm just going to continue on and then I'm going to go to Pixieset. So with Pixieset, you can create a client gallery. So this is where you have your client gallery and this is where I create a new collection and I will call it Dylan plus Ronia. And then I create it here. So here I put the highlights. I'll just put the highlights just to expedite things so that we can get moving on. We'll have those photos that we just edited and I'll upload those. So uploading them to Pixieset. So as these are loading, there's a few things that I like to have preset into my galleries. Okay, so that's all done. So with my Pixieset, I like to pre-select certain things. So in here, I prefer, this is where you create your catalog, your category tags. So with this, I would put engagement session and it usually populates. Save. I also like to make sure that I get everyone's email. So email registration, make sure that they also have the gallery access. So they actually learn with the client, when they access the gallery, they can actually have an instructional sort of start off where they will show you how to use the gallery. And then also social media sharing buttons is also there. Then with the design, I always like to pick large because I like things to look big. And then I like icon and text. Inside Pixieset, you actually have the capacity to update how you want to look at everything. So whether you want the cover image to be like that, or if you want the cover image to have like a side white bit and then the title. It's definitely the internet. Turn. So we'll pick that anyway. And then as you go through, you also get to set privacy. So privacy settings is when you want to not show this on your homepage. You can turn it off or you can make it private so that your clients limit who can access it. There's also the download button. This is where you can either set no pin or with the pin. It also allows you to show what the client can download. I also like to click on this one where you allow them to download individual images rather than having to everyone download the whole gallery itself. And then with favorites, I allow them to have favorites and you can actually preset favorite lists here. I especially use this for album design. So if a client has an album, I would then create favorites like album selection here, and then I would then how many images that they can choose, and they would then have to populate with clicking on the heart to select photos of in their gallery to put into their album. In my store, don't look at that because it's Beeper that I would choose. So that's the shopping cart that I picked, and then I can publish. So when publishing, you then takes you to this screen, and then you can either use pre-populated emails that you've got, wedding day sneak peeks, and then you just, whatever you filled in there, type in the email for your client, and then it sends it off. And then your client will actually get the gallery. It's really quite pretty when they see it from their side. So this is what they see from their on their end when they receive an email. And then that's pretty much from Imagen to Pixieset. Are there any questions regards to loading galleries and how it all works? So let's go back to here. Present. Share. So with this, the delivery, we've already done that, and then we're at the finish. So those who want to sign up with Imagen and have any questions, feel free to email me here at Samantha Li at imagen.ai.com, or if you want to talk about workflows and about mentoring, I'm happy to work with you as well. You can find me at connect@theinfinitycollective.com. So Dylan, I think we're at the very end, unless there are any questions. I think everyone's had enough of my voice.
Thanks, Sam, as always. We'll send out a recording to both. We had a lot more people register to watch it after the fact. I'll get Sam to throw in a few different links to sort of different help documents or resources that touch on what she's discussed. But yeah, we might put a thread up in our group once we publish the recording. So if there's any follow-up questions, you can pop them on there as well. But yeah, if nobody had any questions, we might say goodnight and thanks for logging on.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. We'll have some new Zoom sessions up in the next couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for them as well. But yeah, otherwise, have a great afternoon.